Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 349. This is an interesting week because we're covering some movies that Eric Holmes might like. There might be a director out there in the ether, in the world, who might be a better filmmaker than Steven Spielberg. I don't know if that's the case. I know Spielberg is one of Anderson's, if not favorite directors. Isn't Spielberg Anderson Cowan's favorite director, or is this a running bit that I've been doing for the last 10 years that I should stop right now? What do you think, Eric?
Probably a little bit of both.
Oh, a little bit of both. Okay.
I know his favorite director starts with the S. Might as well be Steven Spielberg.
And he calls him Spiegly. Isn't that an Anderson Cowan? I just talked to him about a week ago, actually several days ago. It's Anderson Cowan. He is the co-head, co-lead with Brian Bishop over at the Film Vault. He helped start CinemAddicts. He helped create it. And I think over the years, Eric Holmes is saying this has been a little bit of both. Okay. I think Anderson Cowan loves Spielberg because he calls him Spiegly. So we're going to see if Eric Holmes loves Spielberg.
They're pretty tight. They're pretty close.
Okay. Because didn't he tell you, Eric Holmes, in confidence during a couple of drinks, that his favorite Spielberg movie, or if not favorite movie of all time, is the BFG? Isn't that, or was it Bridge of Spies? Which one? AI, right? Yeah.
You watch that movie and it's like he nailed what Kubrick was going for.
Oh, no, I think I will correct you on that. I think he said, thank goodness he took over the Stanley Kubrick material because he made it.
That was it. But looking back on it, that was it.
He made it better. We love you, Anderson Cowan, co-lead of CinemAddicts, co-creator of CinemAddicts. And now, thank you, Anderson. I missed you, but I've scaled up with Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes. We have, right? Haven't I scaled up? Have I scaled up?
You scaled down with me, and then you scaled up with Bruce, so it was a sideways move.
Oh, sideways. I like sideways lateral moves. I don't mind that, Eric Holmes. But as far as Bruce Purkey up in the attic this week, he has several recommendations, possibly not recommendations. We'll see. He has reviews of a movie called Alien, which was one of the favorite movies of our buddy, rest in peace, Mitch Burns, Alien. Bruce Purkey reviews that. And then also Lee Cronin's The Mummy and They Will Kill You. These are all movies that will be reviewed up in the attic in a few moments. Eric Holmes, you look like you're pensive. You want to say something, or am I just jumping?
You just mentioned Mitch Burns. I'd say about 15 minutes ago, I came across that. Remember the TFE live show? And Mitch Burns couldn't be there. And then I went around and got video of everyone saying, hey, Mitch, wish you were here, that sort of thing.
Oh.
Found that video and watched it again. And man, oh man,
it's tough.
Given the current circumstances, it comes off a little bit as a eulogy. So it was sad to watch, but it was happy to watch because, oh, look at all these people that cared about Mitch, and isn't that nice? But then the wish you were here, miss you, like all that stuff reads as a double entendre now that we know what happened. But
extra level of resonance to Mitch Burns. Mitch Burns.
But it was real sweet. And Greg, you were on there. You were actually.
Was I? Were you able to capture me? I'm so short. I'm like 4'2". You were able to capture me in trip.
It was on a phone. I wasn't using that camera. I was using my phone.
I love Mitch Burns. I'm not going to put Mitch Burns in the past tense. I love him. I'm not going to say I loved him. I love Mitch Burns. Was I able to say something genuine, at least in the tribute? I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We love Mitch Burns. Rest in peace, Mitch Burns.
I loved Mitch Burns, but I also love him.
Yes.
So I got both. And I will continue to love him.
Eric Holmes, thank you for amplifying and making my statement an improvement. It's a double entendre, double improvement on my statement on Mitch Burns. I loved him, will continue to love Mitch Burns. Okay, selfishly on our end, he was the creator of the CinemAddicts Movie Club. We're still keeping it going. I'm not going to throw shade at Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes, he works so hard for CinemAddicts. He is a pure soul than me. He just is not a Facebook person, but he is on the sidelines giving us support to continue what Mitch Burns started. There's about 15 or 16 of us on the CinemAddicts Movie Club. It sounds weird that I'm promoting this, but this is something that Mitch was very passionate about, was growing a community and not even a big community, just a community of people who would watch a movie per week, and then we would talk about it in a thread on Facebook that Mitch Burns created. And then I created a separate offshoot CinemAddicts Movie Club. It's still Facebook page, Facebook group, okay? More information on that in the coming weeks. I will continue to plug this because Mitch Burns is awesome. Also a part of the group, which I don't know, Eric Holmes, you could say so many different things, but another member of our group was William Lindis, a person that we loved and continue to love. And it's very, I don't know, Eric, if you can put the words together, but the fact that they were having correspondence as well on the movie club. And then I believe William Lindis was on either the Film Vaulters or the Hollywood Persona. Bruce Purkey sent us the link regarding that. These people were both highly passionate about film, passionate about friendship, and we love them both, and we will continue to pay tribute to them through the CinemAddicts Movie Club, or most importantly, just remembering them by mentioning them here on CinemAddicts. I believe, I haven't listened to it, Eric Holmes, but I think the Film Vault did a special episode on Mitch Burns on the Film Vault this week, I believe.
William Lindis was on episode 2 of the Film Vaulters, top 5 LGBTQ plus films with William Lindis. It was 1 year ago. The date was January 22nd, 2025.
January 22nd, 2025. I will put a link. Thank you, Eric Holmes.
Over a year ago. So yeah, if you look up Film Vaulters, it'll be, I think the way it's done, because I think Giovanni was on their first really big episodes. So I think technically if you scroll through it, it'll probably be like 4 or 5, but he was on the second proper episode.
Yeah, these guys were both North Stars when it came to, again, I hate to be in a time loop here because we're going to be talking about time loops in this episode, which Eric doesn't know about, which is going to be one of my reviews, but it feels like a loop because Eric and I, and of course Bruce, will be reverberating and saying the same things down the line because these are two people that we really loved and love, just wonderful cinephiles and very insightful human beings. I feel like just stopping the show right now and just continuing to talk about them. And I said that last week. I will continue to say it every time we talk about William Lindis and Mitch Burns. But for this episode, specifically for movie reviews, Eric Holmes has a movie review of this film called Citizen Vigilante. What is this? Is this sounds a little bit like V for Vendetta? Is it a Natalie Portman movie? Is it a Warner Brothers studio movie? What is it? Is it a movie that's better than a Spieley movie that's out this week? We don't know. I also have a film called Rose of Nevada, a movie I know Eric Holmes, if he took the time to watch it, he would have hated me for giving him the screener link. If he doesn't hate me enough already, and if Bruce Purkey doesn't hate me enough already, this is only a way to increase that antipathy towards Greg Srisavasdi. Yes, I'm speaking. I was
actually going to click on that one, and you specifically told me, Eric, you're not going to like this one. I'm like, okay, I will move past that.
Please. Yeah.
Although sometimes you say that and then I end up watching it going, oh, this was good. So sometimes like when you say that, it lowers the bar of my expectations and I just step right over that bar. And it's like, no, that was a good one. So,
I remember that Eric Holmes, I never warned you about the 8 mountains 2 or 3 years ago. And I just can't imagine if I was in your room having
eight mountains had I watched that first, it would have been one of those where like, hey, Greg, I hated this. You need to watch it.
I think you might feel the same way about Rose of Nevada. I will, when I review Rose of Nevada, there might be a reason why you might want to watch it, and we'll get to that shortly. What else are you going to review as far as a teaser here, Eric? Do you have any recommends this week that you want to quickly?
We got Citizen Vigilante. Oh, recommends. I'll save Disclosure Day then, but a Code of Misconduct. I saw that last week. I think I briefly talked about it at the end of the episode, but I'll talk a little more about it today, especially since that and Citizen Vigilante, I think the two pair well together.
Okay, very good. Now,
for reasons we'll get into. Disclosure Day was everyone's seen Disclosure Day. It's not good.
Oh, really? It's getting divisive reviews. Some people are saying it's really great. Some people are saying it's really not that great.
People said the same about The Post. I hated The Post. So,
Oh, I love The Post. If I love The Post, does that mean I'm going to love Disclosure Day? Maybe. 1 equals 1? Possibly. We'll see. We'll see on that. I can't wait to hear your review of Disclosure Day. Now, let's get into, it's almost the end of the month, more than halfway over. We have a Patreon to record next week, and the year that we're covering is 19th, and we have a bunch of CinemAddicts patrons as well as CinemAddicts members giving us some movie picks. Eric Holmes, what do we have on slate this month for Patreon?
Our assigned pick is The Lavender Hill Mob, Stephen Schrock.
A Patreon member, yes. Very good. Very good.
We have The Thing from Another World from Bruce. I don't know who this Bruce is.
Bruce Attic. His last name is Bruce Attic. Bruce Cinematic Purkey recommended The Thing from Another World, which is, I've never seen it, Eric. Have you seen The Thing from Another World? Which is basically the original thing.
I don't think I have.
Yeah.
I think I've seen parts of it. I don't think I've watched it all the way through. I'll watch it and no, but I don't think I have. And then from Chad Wilfong, we have M. That one I have seen. That one I'm excited to watch again.
Can I actually correct you? You have not seen M. And this is the time. This is the time when you told me, yes, I have. You're supposed to go back and forth. We're playing paddle tennis or tennis. You're supposed to say, Greg, you're wrong. I have seen M. Wait, you're supposed to say that.
I have seen them. It's the
which one?
live show of Depeche Mode, right?
No. M.
I watched it like a week ago. It was awesome.
Okay, so in serious note, you feel.
Oh wait, you're talking about Fritz Lang's M. No, I have not seen that one.
Oh, you have not seen Fritz Lang's M. That was in the early 30s.
I've seen both M's. I've seen M and M. So
I'm wrong. I am wrong. Yeah. Okay. Why did you watch the Joseph Losey version, which is 1951? This is gonna be a rewatch for you.
Oh, okay.
You said you've seen both M's.
So no, I haven't. I've not seen the third M.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you're saying the second M is the Depeche Mode one.
I've not seen the remake. No.
Okay. So the Joseph Losey one, by the way, I'm looking for it. I don't know if it's on digital platforms, but if you type M Joseph Losey on YouTube, it might show up. And I am going to defer to Eric Holmes. And I don't know if you still do this, Eric Holmes. Even if a movie's showing on YouTube, Eric won't watch it if he has a chance to either pay for it or it's on streaming just out of principle. I will say this. The M movie from 1951 on YouTube has close to 100,000 views. So if we don't find any digital possibilities, I wouldn't feel so bad watching it on YouTube for free. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? I think I'm going to watch both of them because it's been a while since I saw Fritz Lang's one. So I think I'll probably watch the Fritz Lang one and then the remake that Chad Wilfong suggested. And then we'll compare the two because that's always fun when we can do that. I don't have to rewatch that. I've seen that movie 100 times. So
okay, Eric, before we get to your review of Citizen Vigilante, I want to ask you an M question, maybe because you might have a POV on this. I remember watching M. The last time I saw M was over 10 years ago. It was on the Criterion Channel. I saw it with my good friend Cole. It was just a lazy Sunday. We were watching it on his television. And I think, when was it made? Maybe the early 30s, maybe 1930, 31. Black and white. Peter Lorre, person is child murderer and all that stuff. There's a lot of scenes with the balloon. And from what I recall, watching M, which is almost 100 years old, Eric, that was so visually expressive and indelible. The imagery and the shot compositions, the way it looks is so haunting and so memorable. I see so many films every single year. Why is it so hard? Why is a movie that's almost 100 years ago sticks in my head visually more than a lot of the movies I see today on Netflix or Prime Video or Paramount Plus or Hulu? Why? And I think you could feel the same way about when you and Bruce flipped over Vampire. Do you have a theory? Because I'm confused.
I think people have been making great movies the whole time. It's just I think it's a failure on memory or call it they made bad movies back then and they're not nearly as sophisticated as they are now. But then it's not until you go back, and we've figured this out, the stuff with Elise Guy Blaché when we went back and watched that, Gollum 3 or Vampire that you mentioned. We go back and watch these movies and oh man, they made these amazing movies. I think when we think back to that time, we have the wrong idea in our head that back then they were just making, here's a video of someone filming a train moving in front of it.
Okay.
Oh, how simple they were back then. They weren't nearly as sophisticated as we are now. But then we go back and watch a Ida Lupino movie, for example, and go, holy crap, what the hell is this? And so I don't think that they made better movies back then. We just have a misconception of what the talent pool was like back then.
So then if we have a misconception, Eric, and we look at a movie from Elise Guy Blaché or Fritz Lang or Carl Dreyer, do we upscale our thoughts because it was do we give them a little bit more love because it was made from bias? Is it a bias thing? Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a bias, but I also think it's like surprise, like holy crap. But then someone that watches movies like in this time period a lot, they're probably listening to us going, yeah, duh, idiots.
Again, I'm not an expert when it comes to the films of Buster Keaton or even the films of Charlie Chaplin. I loved a lot of stuff from Chaplin,
I
but
I will say,
yeah,
movies from back then though, and even as early as the 80s or 90s, when you see wonderful special effects, because we're so inundated with CGI, and nothing wrong. I'm not knocking CGI because it's a wonderful tool, and
sure.
they do some great things with CGI. But we're inundated with that, and that just becomes the norm. So when we see a cool effect, we don't think about it. Oh, they did that in the computer, not a big deal. When you watch a movie from the 80s on back and you
Right.
see something amazing happen on screen, they did that on camera. How the hell did they do that on camera? And then so there's a bit of amazement and wonder there.
And maybe
I think that is probably lost today, because if you see something amazing in a movie today, the wonder's gone because you just, oh, they probably did CGI and you don't think twice about it.
yeah,
But like, that a movie was made, everything was done in camera and something amazing happens. Oh, wow. Like back rooms, there's certainly CGI elements in there, but a lot of the production design was legit. They built those rooms, so then you're watching them go through those rooms and do that one shot, and it was, holy crap, it doesn't hit you right away, but eventually you're like, they spent time building this, and that's pretty amazing. And when you look at movies that are 80s on back, you look at movies and they do something amazing on camera. They didn't have CGI. They didn't do it in a computer. They did it in camera. Buster Keaton movie, whenever he does those amazing stunts, is, dude, he almost died right there. And then so you got to piece together in your brain like how they pulled that off. And I think in that sense, that's a lot more impressive than movies today. But
Right.
just in general, I think people were just as talented yesteryear as they are today.
100%. Yeah.
I think we're just a little more surprised by it because we don't watch those older movies enough.
That's great, Eric. Now,
Or maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
or maybe I'm wrong too.
Be dead wrong about everything.
Okay, now here's the thing though. Do we give extra credit or extra point to someone like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but Uwe Ball, director Uwe Ball, for Citizen Vigilante, where he doesn't have $100 million in his bank account or in the production to make a movie like Citizen Vigilante. He has lead actor Armie Hammer. He's playing, what is he? He's playing a businessman, American businessman living abroad whose campaign against criminals turns him into a social media phenomenon while placing him increasingly at odds with law enforcement. Citizen Vigilante, quote, explores crime, public safety, media narratives, and society's growing fascination with vigilante justice. How good is this movie? It's a bold film. We know what we're going to get from him. Do you like him as a filmmaker? There is a little bit of a bias there because you did interview him a couple of days ago, or maybe not. Maybe you're not biased. So what did you think of this movie overall in Boll's direction?
I like Uwe Boll as a person. He's great to talk to. His movies are hit and miss. I think the last two I've seen of his was First Shift. I love that one.
You love that.
And this one's pretty good too. I have some inherent disagreements with what's portrayed in this movie, but it's very visceral and it's a vigilante movie. So it's like one of those things, it tickles a part of your brain where it's like, yeah, those rapists shouldn't get away. Go after them. When people think of Batman, who, for all intents and purposes, Armie Hammer is basically playing Batman in this. He doesn't wear the cape or anything. Rich a-hole that decides to take the law into his own hands. This is a much darker version of it because Batman doesn't kill, air quotes. He does, but that's not often. But I think the main point that I disagree with is that this is based on, first of all, this movie is extremely angry. Uwe Boll saw something in the news that triggered him and got him real angry and inspired him to write this. And I think as much crap as Uwe Boll gets for being like the worst filmmaker ever because you didn't like House of the Dead or whatever, when Uwe Boll is inspired, you get something like Postal. You get something like First Shift. You get something like this. Whether you like it or not, this is him expressing himself. And I think there's something very interesting there. I think his anger in this shows as front and center. And I think that anger also is part of why some of the stuff in this that is mentioned that I disagree with, because there's a woman who's gang raped, and she's gang raped by immigrants. And then so the Army Hammers goes and the woman's in a hospital and he's who are you? What do you want to happen? What do you want to happen to the people that did this to you? I want them to have justice. And then he goes on, that's cool. They'll get their day in court and they'll go through the trial, a trial of which you'll have to be a part of, a trial in which people will point at you and say it's your fault. They'll blame you for all this because of this or that. They'll turn on you and discredit you. And then you'll go through all that. And eventually there probably won't be enough. There probably won't be enough evidence. They'll be set free. And or at the very best, they'll go to prison for a year or two and then just be out. And then they'll be able to do all this to someone else. So I'm going to ask you again, what do you want to happen? And then it goes on from there. And then he goes on this, I wouldn't say kill spree. It's a lot more methodical than that. But so to back up, the part where I disagree is that some of these people are immigrants to the area. And I think part of the idea that comes from anger is we got to close the borders because these immigrants these other countries are bringing in rapists. And I don't think that's the case. I think the problem is, I agree with the problem. I don't agree with the perceived answer to the problem. The problem isn't immigrants coming in and raping people. The problem is rapists, wherever they come from. If they're not
100%.
immigrants, they're going to be people that live there. And another problem is the rapists just get away with too much. Part of that, I think, is because you have to have evidence for it. Unless you get raped and get a rape kit right away, a lot of it's he said, she said, and that's not always strong enough to convict someone. And so it's a situation where Armie Hammer's character in this would be like, yeah, go do your thing, kill the person, make them pay. Get justice, not justice vigilantism, but that's part of the conversation. And so in a movie, this is all fine. Armie Hammer's killing rapists. Yeah, go for them. Similar to Boondock Saints. Mm-hmm. I mentioned Batman. But then when you take a step back and start really thinking about it, you start realizing all the problems with vigilantism that the movie doesn't really deal with. But this is what would you call it? Like a fantasy. I'm angry at this. I want these people to pay. I'm going to make a movie about it. Right on. I can get behind you. And so from that perspective, it's a pretty good revenge fantasy.
Escapist fare, it works, Eric, as just a surface level escape.
I think this is a little more than escapist fare.
Okay.
Because it can certainly work like that. But again, Uwe Boll's freaking pissed. You can tell when he's making it, like he was. I can imagine him just at the keyboard, just typing away, just angry as hell of the story that he heard. And that's interesting when you watch the movie from that perspective. And it's very clear that he's angry watching this. It's like when you say Uwe Boll, art film isn't the first thing that comes to mind. When you say a revenge fantasy, art film is not the first thing that comes to mind. But this is absolutely that. This is Uwe Boll just laying it all out there. Right or wrong that his thoughts may be, this is his pure thoughts on it in that moment. And I think it's pretty interesting to consider.
Okay. And there is a healthy share of action in this movie. How's Armie as the lead? Does he work as the lead?
Armie Hammer's pretty good. I think he got canceled. I did not look too deeply into something about cannibalism, but I don't know about. And so the fact that he's going around killing people based on revenge, I would have to look more into Armie Hammer because I feel like there's possibly a meta context to this also that I'm not aware of. If more about Armie Hammer and you watch this, maybe you can tell me. But there is one actor in this that I do quite love, Costas Mandylor, brother of Louis
course.
Mandylor.
Yeah.
Anytime you get a Mandylorian in this movie, I'm in any movie, I'm down for it. But yeah, this is an incredibly interesting movie. It's got some cheese here and there. Won't be for everybody, but I think if you look at it from the perspective of someone writing this movie who's angry at the world, you're gonna, art film. That's the only way I can put this. And it's one I found incredibly interesting, entertaining-ish. It's but it was definitely, I would say check it out.
Okay, so that is Citizen Vigilante, directed by Uwe Boll and starring Armie. Uwe. How do you say it, Eric? Uwe?
I think it's Uwe.
Uva Bowl. Thank you, Eric. And starring Armie Hammer. Is on digital platforms starting Friday, January 19th. Eric Holmes' rating is...
I'm going to go 3-star banger on this. I want to go 4.5, but I'll go 3-star banger because given what the movie's about and the mental state in which it was written and made, I think it might turn some people off, but it's incredibly interesting. And if you're there for the ride and you're curious, I would definitely check it out.
Okay, so that is Citizen Vigilante. The next featured film is Rose of Nevada. And I'm going to give a plot summary, and let's see, Eric, if this plot summary intrigues you. And there might be an extra layer that might intrigue you even more to possibly open up that screener link, which I told you not to. I might be wrong, but I know in your taste, I feel that you would really have disliked Rose of Nevada. But anyways, the movie stars George Mackay. You might know him from as the lead in 1917. There's also Callum Turner in this film as well. They're two young men. They live in a fishing village that is struggling, economically struggling. Actually, the Callum Turner person is more of a drifter. And let's see, yeah, Callum Turner plays Liam and George Mackay plays Nick. Nick is maybe actually mid to late 20s, early 30s, maybe not. I'd say maybe late 20s. He has a wife, a kid. The roof in his small home or residence is leaking. He needs to make money to fix the roof. So he decides to go out fishing on a fishing boat to catch fish, clean and gut fish on a fishing boat. What is it called? A trawler. He decides to get a job to make some money. All right. Now this other guy played by Callum Turner, Liam, he's a drifter. He comes into town and he needs to make money too. So they go on this boat. Simple enough, right? Two guys trying to make money. Here's the catch.
Yeah.
The boat they go on.
They come across the perfect storm and George Clooney and Marky Mark join them.
The boat that they're on is called the Rose of Nevada. And the intriguing part about Rose of Nevada is it's a boat that disappeared 30 years ago. Right. Going on a boat that disappeared 30 years ago. And it's initially found out at the beginning of the movie. And two inhabitants of the fishing village, they're the ones who come across this boat that they're going, what is going on? This boat has been gone. And these people were missing. And instead of being completely shocked, these two citizens of the village, these two inhabitants decided to say, hey, we need some people to go on the boat and catch some fish. Because you can see the town is really struggling economically. It looks very poor. A lot of things are in decay. So these men, these two guys, they go on the fishing boat, not knowing that this boat disappeared 30 years ago. They go, they catch fish, they clean, they gut them. They come back with a bunch of crates with fish on ice. Everything's fine. When they come back, that struggling town, which looks like a ramshackle ghost town, is filled with people waiting for the fish to come in. And they go into the local bar, which at the beginning of the movie looked like a deserted, not even tavern. I'd call it a deserted shack or deserted just bar with a couple of people. Nope. They come back and that bar is thriving. And
so this is like a time travel movie?
Exactly. And this is not a spoiler. This is the premise of the plot.
I haven't seen this.
No, when they come back, they realize that I think the year is 1993. They come back to the same town, the same people from at the original part of the story are 30 years younger. And here's the catch. The drifter played by Callum Turner, he realizes, wait, something Twilight Zone-esque is happening right now. But instead of freaking out, he ingratiates himself into the town because he likes being the center of attention. So he's okay. He's okay with playing that charade. Okay. Now, the George Mackay character, the one who plays Nick, he's wondering, what the heck is going on? I have a wife and a kid in present day to get home to. I don't want to be stuck in 1993. I don't know. He has a family. So understandably, these two men, one of them single, footloose and fancy free, one of them is married. Obviously, the married guy has responsibilities. And for Pete's sake, he doesn't want to be stuck in this time loop. The single guy, he realizes I'm just gonna have a couple of drinks, shack up with a local cutie in the village. Everything's fine. I'm making money. So there's two different POVs regarding this village. How does that premise sound to you? As far as it's almost 2 hours, about 114 minutes. Does that sound like an intriguing premise?
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Also, here's the thing that's very interesting. It's directed.
But here's what you're gonna hate.
No, either or you might hate it or dislike it. But here's this thing we're talking about, and I'm just trying to piece this together. I didn't try to submerge this whole thing with M into this review and silent film era, all that stuff. But even if you dislike Rose of Nevada, I think, Eric, if you did see this movie, you would appreciate it because the director, Mark Jenkin, I believe this is the third installment of his Cornish trilogy. His movies are set in Cornwall. He shot the movie 16 millimeter with a Bolex camera. Supposedly, I was reading up on the Bolex camera, you can only have 30 seconds per take or something like that.
Yeah, there's not much room for filming. It's
okay.
the one I'm thinking of. You got like the daylight reels, they're pretty tiny.
Okay. He shot the film on a Bolex 60 millimeter camera. Okay, number one. Number two, post sound. He shot the movie without sound. Okay? Everything in post, we're talking about post, right? Sound effects. Okay, all the Foley stuff. Sound effects, he scored it. He edited it. And obviously post synced the sound, not just from the ambient noise, but from the actors as well, which in essence leads to a little bit of a disorientation of the way the movie looks, the way the movie sounds, and most importantly, the way the movie feels. So, Eric Holmes, or dear listener, if this intrigues you and you still end up not liking Rose of Nevada, at the very least, on the floor of this is an appreciation of cinema as an art form. And even if so I think at the very least, you can appreciate what Mark Jenkin is trying to do. It's amazing. It's amazing what this movie ends up. Yes, Eric.
So I'm looking at Mark Jenkin, and he did that Ennis Main.
Yeah, Ennis Main, yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I didn't like that one.
No, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
But the thing I remember from that movie is nothing, which is why I didn't like it. Just a bunch of nothing happening, and then the movie ends. But this sounds like it has a story or a point to it. So what's the part that I'm not going to like?
I think the same aesthetic structure, which is the post-sound synchronization stuff, which I didn't appreciate. I loved Ennis Main. And I didn't really read up on it. And all of the stuff, now that I'm learning about it, I appreciate on a deeper level. But it has the same aesthetic of Ennis Main, but Rose of Nevada is, I feel, a lot more palatable to the lay audience, which I include myself in it. So there's a lot more emotional resonance to it. There's, to your point, Eric, more of a story. It sounds like a really interesting story, right? And the wind up is really well done. And what's very funny, Eric, is years ago, when I think it was during our Find Your Film podcast days, we would spotlight filmmakers. Samuel Fuller, Elise Blaché, so many different, Ronald Neame, a lot of different directors, William Friedkin. There was this time, I think, when we spotlighted Nicholas Roeg, and I was watching this movie, and while I was watching it, I was like, wow, I really miss watching Ennis Main from several years ago. I love this movie so much, and I was thinking, man, this really reminds me of my days when I used to love director Nicholas Roeg and how much I really love Don't Look Now. Now, what's interesting about that is I go and I do some digging after watching the movie, and
I agree, by the way. Don't Look Up's an amazing movie.
Of course, Don't Look Up is good. And I think, hopefully, if I recall, you like Don't Look Now as well, directed by Nicholas Roeg and starring Donald Sutherland. Oh, good. Both different movies, both wonderful films. At least, I'm so sorry for trashing Don't Look Up back in the day. I will admit to that. But that was my fault. But going back to a Criterion page of Mark Jenkin, he listed as one of his number one film, Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now. So I'm saying,
you almost said Don't Look Up. I saw it.
It's just very interesting editing. Okay, so he edited, composed it, and Eric, he shot it and did all the post stuff on it. It's just masterful work.
See, like that stuff's definitely impressive, as we mentioned earlier when we were talking about older movies. And I'm assuming he did a lot of that in this main as well.
Yes.
But then that can only take you so far. Like,
I agree. I agree.
After about 10 minutes, like that wears off, and now it's, oh wow, that's cool that you shot on 16 millimeter. That's cool that you had to do everything ADR, and it syncs up nice. And yeah, you put a lot of work into it.
I
Do
get
I keep
it.
watching this, or is that all the story you got?
I think
because
yeah.
eventually the characters need to take over, and eventually the story needs to take over. If it's just a reel saying, "Hey, look at this cool thing I can do," I don't want to watch 2 hours of that.
Okay,
10 minutes of that is impressive enough.
This is where I disagree with you, because I love watching movies that are just about form. Okay, but I think most people will agree with you, Eric.
Let me rephrase. For my taste, I can handle 10 minutes of that and go, that's very impressive. Now, if you don't have a story or characters, I'm out.
And I am, unfortunately, I'm all about form. I love form. But I think what you're saying is you love form, but form has to meet function. The function part.
It can't be just form. It's just like wonderful special effects. Hey, cool, look at all these flashy special effects. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, you want to watch 3 hours of it? No.
I think the good news.
I need character or story. Otherwise, I'm fine watching 5-10 minutes of that, and then we move on.
The good news for me is, in my opinion, form meets function with Rose of Nevada. There is a very important situation that happens with the George Mackay character towards the third act, a fateful decision that he makes. And I think the form helps elevate the function of this movie. It gives it a level of resonance. And I agree with you, Eric. Sometimes there can be some very interesting filmmakers who know a lot about form, but if they can't get the story together, if they can't meet the story with that form, then it's just an exercise, right? It's just an exercise. Where you're talking about M and Fritz Lang employing German expressionism visually, employing the beautiful black and white. But it's great to look at, but if you don't have a story, if you don't have a sense of pacing, Fritz Lang's M is could be a big fat zero, or maybe a big fat half, because it has some good stuff, right? You have to have that function.
Perfect example to what we're talking about, Citizen Kane. When Citizen Kane came out, Orson Welles had all these tricks and stuff that's, oh, wow, that's a new technique. Oh, I've never seen that before. How'd they pull that off? So on and so forth. Years later, all the techniques he's done has become standard, and they're not impressive anymore. So you go back and watch Citizen Kane. Now what are you left with? You're left with the stories. You're left with the character. Does that hold up? Because the technique that Orson Welles used back then is no longer impressive. So now you're stuck with the story and the characters. And now some people are like, yeah, I've seen Citizen Kane, I hate it, and that's fair enough. And other people are like, no, Citizen Kane's awesome. I love the story. I love the characters.
100%. Yep.
But regardless, the bells and whistles that Orson Welles put into Citizen Kane today is irrelevant. You're left with the story. You're left with the characters. You're left with the ideas you're trying to present forth in your medium. And if if that's not compelling to someone, they're not going to want to watch it. What you're describing in Rose of Nevada, it sounds like all the techniques is impressive. Oh wow, they shot on 16 millimeter. That's cool. And they had to do ADR. Wow, that in the age of digital filmmaking, you don't need to do that. But they did it anyway, and it's impressive that they did that. Now that we take that off the table, what are we left with? This cool story about a ship that comes back as a time travel thing. I'm still interested. You take all the bells and whistles off, I'm still interested. I don't know. I haven't watched the movie, but I'm just going based on what you're describing to me.
But at least it could reel you in to watch the movie, whether you like it, right? And that's the most, that's a huge part. Yeah, exactly. Rose of Nevada, my rating on it, 5 stars. One of my favorites easily this year, a top 5 for me, hands down. I hope this movie is, I'm not talking about Oscars and awards. I just hope it's recognized for how awesome it is. Currently, with 61 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 100% rating. It'll be interesting what the audience will feel. Eric was mentioning about how he was not a fan of Ennis Main. That is correct in the sense that a lot of people do not like. I know Bruce Purkey did not like that movie. I look back on Rotten Tomatoes. I think Rotten Tomatoes maybe 23% or 30% for the audience regarding Ennis Main. But going back to Rose of Nevada, it is a much more accessible film, much more relatable film about not just a time loop, but what type of sacrifices will you do for your community that is suffering, that needs fish, that needs money in the village? There are different types of issues that are being broached in this very surreal, awesome movie called Rose of Nevada. I can't wait to see it again. And I don't know if Mark Jenkins is lying. If he's lying, it's a great lie that I will continue to believe. But he said the reason why he did the post sync, or like Eric was saying, the ADR stuff for all of his movies, including, I forgot what the name of his first movie was. I think it might be called Bait, and Ennis Main, and now Rose of Nevada. He said the reason why he did all of that stuff was that's how he started learning how to make movies out of necessity.
Yeah.
I will buy that. I'm just going to say, benefit of the doubt, he's telling the truth. But if he really wanted to be very, well, how would you say, just a little bit pretentious, it sounds pretentious, the fact that he's doing it this way. But if he's actually doing it this way because that's how he learned this analog style, or this very ambitious, driven lo-fi style of storytelling, kudos to him. And other filmmakers, Fritz Lang, this is a filmmaker who has a distinct vision, a distinct opinion. And the flip side of that, it's up to you guys, listeners, fellow cinephiles, whether you love it or not. Maybe give it a shot. I don't know, Eric. So that's what I'm saying. You don't have too much time. You got to do Patreon next week, but you got to screen a link. Maybe you might watch 10 minutes, see it.
I'll squeeze it in. It sounds interesting. And like we were saying, like the behind the scenes stuff sounds interesting, and that could very well be impressive. But again, I don't want to watch 2 hours of that. I want a story. I want characters. But from what you're describing, it has that too. So
give it at least 10 minutes.
I will rewind this next week. Will rewind this.
Oh, okay.
Week.
All right. If you don't have time, give it at least 10 minutes, because you being a filmmaker and a writer, you might be interested in how it's done, right?
Let me take that back. I'll rewind it next week. I'll give it a half hour, and if it looks dull, I'm going to bail. But I'll give it at least a half hour, and then if the story's as interesting as you're painting, I'll more than likely watch the rest of it.
What you said, giving it a half hour.
If I don't rewind it next week, just know, like,
I will say this: if you said a little bit of synchronicity, you said you're giving it a half hour. I'm not going to mention names, but I hope you listen to the cinematic this week as far as giving things an hour. That's all I'm going to say, Eric. So give it a listen.
Oh no.
That's enough.
Oh no.
That's enough of me blabbing. Let's get to Eric Holmes.
Then again, if you're talking about BRUCE, he knows how to spell, so he knows. But I mean,
yeah,
you think it? Don't look up that movie.
Look up and ganging up on Eric on that movie. Yes.
This is not a brand new conversation. This is an old ass conversation. But you mentioned Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is binary. The movie's good. It gets a thumbs up. Bad, a thumbs down.
Yes.
Citizen Vigilante. I gave it a 3-star banger. Where does that fit into Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, that's so interesting. That's very. Where would that fit into?
For some people, it's a thumbs up. For other people, it's a thumbs down. It depends on where you're coming at from the movie.
Very good, Eric.
I'd like to remind people that, and I think a lot of people know. People have had this conversation about Rotten Tomatoes, but it's an aggregate, and it's a very limited aggregate. Yes. And on top of that, I think the most interesting movies tend to be the ones that are like at 50%.
Yeah. Divisive,
half the critics hated it, half the critics loved it, and it's because the movie's polarizing. And man, are those movies interesting! And sometimes you get something like Project Hail Mary, where everyone agrees this movie's awesome. It's great, people like it. And Project Hail Mary is great, but then sometimes you get movies where it's like right down the middle, and it's like, I think that might be the best thing that Rotten Tomatoes has to offer. Is the 50% movies on Rotten, because like the high marks on Rotten Tomatoes is okay, everyone likes it. The low marks, everyone hates it. It's the 50% where you're like, why is that 50%?
Exactly.
Why do half the people love this and half the people hate it? That they're like right down the middle. There's something polarizing here. There's something interesting here.
Speaking of
my hypothesis is that the most interesting movies on Rotten Tomatoes are like within the 50%, like the middling range, where critics can't seem to agree on whether this is amazing or this is dog crap.
All right, that is, yes. I wonder when you were saying that,
I'm wrong.
I wanted to look up the Rotten Tomatoes rating for Raising Cain. I love that movie. That's probably a 50% movie. But let's get to. Finally, we're going to wrap up the show with a couple of quick recommendations or not from Eric Holmes. You have 2 projects that you want to cover. Which one do you want to quickly review first, Eric?
Let's see, Disclosure Day.
Okay, Disclosure Day. You were excited? Were you excited going into the movie at all?
I would say the trailers intrigue me. They seem interesting. And Steven Spielberg doing sci-fi, usually decent. Lately has not. Was it the Ready Player One was fun, but empty. Oh shoot, what
Yeah,
else?
it was
What
of
else
its
do we
time.
have?
You mentioned you didn't like
Um,
the post too much. There was also the BF. What is the BFG? There's Bridge of Spies.
War of the Worlds. I liked War of the
Decent.
Worlds until the son came back at the end. I'm like, no, he's dead. This is BS. Minority Report has some cool ideas.
Some good
AI,
stuff.
as much as Anderson is annoyed by it, AI is really good. And I really love the end of it because it's so bittersweet. It's like for the character, that's like the happiest ending ever. But for the people watching it, this is horrifying.
Exactly, exactly.
And so
Yeah.
I think that had a lot to do with Stanley Kubrick and his sort of cynical takes on things. But lately, I have not enjoyed the Steven Spielberg movies I've seen. Ready Player One's probably the best one, and that one's pretty empty for the most part, but it was flashy and whatever. I think the last movie of his I actually liked from front to back was The Terminal, which is where people hate that movie, but whatever. This one, so there's some question about whether aliens exist or not. Of course, conspiracy theorists would say that, oh yes, aliens exist and the government's covering it up. But there's a Emily Blunt. She gets pulled over on her way to work. She's a meteorologist for a news station, and she's running late as it is. She gets pulled over, and then the cop's like, license and registration, and she gives it to him. Cop's like, can you step out of the car, please? And then she starts saying a bunch of personal stuff about the cop. Oh, she doesn't really hate you. She was just mad because he did this. But if it's this and this, then that's all she wants from you. That's all she's got. And the cop's like, what? She's saying all this stuff that's real personal that only that cop should know. And she should have no idea. And then, okay, is that it? Excellent. She grabs her license and registration, heads off. She goes to the news station, and they're like, "Where were you?" Blah blah blah. And she's like, "Don't worry about it. Screw off. We're gonna get there." She goes on, and now here's what's her name? Margaret. Here's Margaret Fairchild with the weather. Hi, I'm Margaret Fairchild. We have, and then she starts making these clicking noises. It's called Disclosure Day. You've seen the trailer. Alien noises, and then all of a sudden, this stuff makes its way online. And they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And you have Josh O'Connor, who you see at the very beginning of the movie. Colin first stops him. He's got like this flash drive or whatever with some information on it. You gotta give it to me. No, I'm gonna run away. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. Basically, it's the government in their last ditch effort to cover up all this alien stuff. And Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt's link somehow. Like it's way too. Oh, we talked about cool filmmaking techniques, but you have to have a story to go along with it. This one's got way too much story. It's almost overly convoluted, too many characters, and then the basic premise, as far as I can tell, seems to be some people believe Josh O'Connor's character believes that this is information, this is the truth, and everyone deserves to know the truth. And other people are like, if they learn about aliens, that will interrupt their faith. And then we can't do that. And people will freak out. I'm like, well, in a year where Project Hell, and not to bring up Project Hail Mary again, but here I go because the movie's awesome. In a world where Project Hail Mary exists and Project Hail Mary is a hit and people love it and people love Rocky, and even with Steven Spielberg's movie, people love E.T. Think of Star Wars. You love Yoda. People love aliens. So this idea that aliens are the scary thing that will destroy humanity and make them freak out, I think is ancient thinking, and it's not interesting. And the fact that we have to hide this to save people, we need to protect their faith. And like, faith is based on fiction anyway. So why do we care? And just the whole thought. So I mentioned Citizen Vigilante. I disagreed with the thought of the immigrants coming in, raping, and then blaming it on immigration. The problem's not immigration. The problem is rapists. With this goes a lot deeper because everything about it is like, we're trying to protect people's faith. That's not our concern. I don't care if you believe in God or not. I don't believe in God, so why do I care whether or not you do? And why are you holding information away from me to protect this other person that believes in fiction? That's asinine from my perspective. And then you have certain scenes that this is Steven Spielberg's supposed to be a master filmmaker, right?
Yep.
Why are there a bunch of FBI agents coming in on his cabin? There's, I don't know, probably 20, 30 of them there. Who knows how many? Probably, we'll say 30. And then Josh O'Connor is running in from an open field and hiding behind a wooden fence, like walking away. No one notices him until he gets in the car and then starts taking off. I'm like, guys, come on, let's.
So are you telling me that Josh O'Connor is better and you would rather watch Josh O'Connor in Rebuilding than in Disclosure Day? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's a non-starter, obviously.
Remember how much you loved,
like,
you and I loved Rebuilding from months ago?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Callie Reese is in it.
This movie's just poorly conceived. It looks pretty, but the shot composition. This is from a master filmmaker. And there's shots where they're hiding behind a rock. Here's a rock. They're like, they'll never see us now.
Wow.
I mean, even though they're like 5 feet away. The bit at the end, I won't spoil that, but
okay.
There's just so much in this movie that's just ill-conceived, stupid, and the fact that it came from a master filmmaker that I think is well past his prime is
wow.
It's not good. David Koepp, he's a decent writer, but he's also a writer for hire. I think some of the stuff that he writes, it turns out really good, and that's probably more in line with what he's capable of.
You mentioned turns out really good. I'm correcting you. You said movies that turn out really good. You should have said turn out really good, like Snake Eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like Snake Eyes.
I love Snake Eyes.
But David Koepp, he's a work for hire. So like he'll write something like Kimmy. Kimmy was good. And
Soderbergh.
I feel like that's something that David Koepp wrote. Yeah, I can get behind this. And the filmmakers, yeah, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. And then you got stuff like this where I think he's maybe leaning more into what Steven Spielberg likes, and Steven Spielberg's thoughts on aliens and allowing the truth come out is an antiquated thought.
Wow. Yeah, and you mentioned him. You described him as
this movie's not good.
But Eric,
and here's the thing. I started this movie a couple days ago, watching it in theaters. I just finished it now because I think this movie is about 3 days long. At least that's what it feels like.
Eric,
there's just nothing to recommend about this movie.
Eric, you describe him, and I agree with you, as a master filmmaker. Are you surprised that he took his time to make this movie? Because if he is a master filmmaker, one has to want, and an iconic producer, Eric, do you have an idea why he even wanted to do this movie? Because it does seem...
Steven Spielberg is interested. Steven Spielberg is a conspiracy theorist. That's what he is. I think that or at the most generous, he leans into conspiracy theory to sell his movies when he does something science fiction. He has no curiosity on what could actually... I think conspiracy theorists believe that they have curiosity. They don't. If they had curiosity, they'd look deeper into what they believe and come to find out that there's much more amazing things about the universe than this conspiracy theory that you're holding on so tightly to. And yeah, there's just nothing interesting here. And Steven Spielberg has zero curiosity. Otherwise, I think if he had curiosity about the space, his thoughts on it would have mutated, grown, changed throughout the years. And it hasn't. This is the exact same movie he would have made with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Close Encounters is a good movie, but it's dated. And the fact that someone would make Close Encounters today, which eventually pretty much is Disclosure Day, is sad.
Oh, what is your rating on Disclosure Day, Eric?
We'll go 1.5 stars.
1.5 stars from Eric Holmes for Disclosure Day. Hit us up over on our CinemAddicts Facebook page or our CinemAddicts YouTube channel. Tell us what you think of Disclosure Day. Do you disagree with Eric? Do you agree with him? We'd love to hear it. I haven't seen it. I was about to see this movie next week.
Allow me to say this out loud. Uwe Boll made a better movie than Steven Spielberg and released it this same week.
Very good.
Fight me on that. You will lose.
Holmes, I'm going to leave that in. When he means fight, he means verbal sparring.
Yeah, not fisticuffs.
This is just, folks. This is just the use of words. The use of words.
Watch Citizen Vigilante. Then watch Disclosure. You probably already saw Disclosure Day. Watch Disclosure Day. Watch Citizen Vigilante. And you tell me which one's the better thought out movie. Granted, not all Uwe Boll's ideas are thought out, but it's not thought out because he's angry. It's immediate. Steven Spielberg's passing the same old conspiracy theory BS that he's been doing forever, and that there's been zero growth since he did it the first time.
Speaking of growth, I will say this. I do not know how Josh O'Connor is in this movie, but if you want to see some great naturalistic acting and very subtle performance and quietly affecting, check out his performance in Rebuilding. Eric, I love Rebuilding.
Here's something. When Uwe Boll goes to do Citizen Vigilante, say 30 years from now, he's going to have time to calm down. He's going to have time to think of all the stuff that he angrily typed up during Citizen Vigilante. That movie's going to be much different and more thought out than it was now. He will have grown. He will have progressed over that time.
That's true.
Steven Spielberg during that time made the exact same movie that he would have made. And that is sad. That is sad.
Oh boy, Eric Holmes. Okay, before we get out of here and head to the attic, Eric Holmes, you have a couple of quick things to say about Code of Misconduct before we're out of here.
Yes. Oh, Code of Misconduct. I can't remember what I said last week, so much like Steven Spielberg, I have zero growth over at least. It was directed by Sebastian Trahan. And it's a documentary about some kids, some hockey kids, and they basically gang raped a woman. And it's weird that Code of Misconduct or
Citizen Vigilante
and Citizen Vigilante came in. Code of Misconduct. So watch Citizen Vigilante. You get that, or actually watch Code of Conduct. Watch Code of Conduct, and then you get to watch. This basically goes over the whole court case, what the evidence is. That there's bits of, there was a mistrial at some point. There was damning evidence that basically paints these people as guilty, and that evidence can no longer be used because of the mistrial. And so now they're doing another trial. Everyone knows they're guilty because they have this evidence that they can no longer use. And like that, there's just stuff like that. You'll watch this, you'll watch the different court cases, not the court cases, but you'll get the evidence presented and all this stuff from the court cases. And you'll get all sides, all the information. And what happens at the end, spoiler alert, the guys walk. The woman that was raped, and this is nothing new. Rapists get away with it all the time. Even in situations like this, when the rapists are caught dead to rights, they'll still walk. And it'll get you angry. It'll get you riled up. And then you'll watch Citizen Vigilante, and you'll know exactly why Uwe Boll is angry and riled up. And so, yeah.
It's one of those things, though, with something like Code of Misconduct. What can it do? There can't be any relitigation on the case, right? But just to show how
it goes through all of that. And I don't want to speak too much on it because I'm not a lawyer, and I'm probably going to misspeak. But
sure,
the documentary does a really good job detailing everything, talking about everything, setting up the scene, and then the evidence and where the evidence is relevant and all that, and just painting that picture. The Code of Misconduct is a movie that will piss you off. If you're a rapist, it'll be a movie that'll make you go, phew, I might get away with this. And you probably will, because that's just how things work, unfortunately. But yeah, this movie, or it's not documentary, it'll get you riled up, and yeah, check it out.
Check it out.
Especially when it comes to rapists being brought to justice. It's just one of those things. It's a sad fact of the world that it's just going to keep happening for any number of reasons, and probably a good idea to remind ourselves of it periodically. That this is bad. We should do something about it. Now, what to do about it? Who the hell knows? Which is why Citizen Vigilante exists.
All right.
Just send Army Hammer out to kill him? Who knows? I don't think that's the answer, but if you're going to watch a movie that lets you blow off some steam, go for it. Code of Misconduct. followed up with the Citizen Vigilante, you got yourself a movie nut that'll enrage you, and then you'll get the release.
What is your?
I'm gonna go five. I'm gonna go
star-
5 stars on
5 stars.
this.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's tough to watch, but it's well done and
Okay, cool.
important.
That is 5 stars from Eric Holmes.
Much more engaging than Disclosure Day, which is
Thank you, Eric.
dumb.
Because of that, I am not going to watch Disclosure Day, and I, in advance, apologize to you. Is if you decide to open up and watch a little bit of Rose of Nevada, and it turns out to be really crappy, I apologize for that. But at least it shows you that interesting cinematic form that Mark Jenkins is trying to do. At the very least, hopefully. So, early apologies to you, Eric, on that, and early apologies to you guys. If you ever watch this in the theater and you're saying, "What is this? This is so boring. Why is it one of your favorite films of the year?" Eric said it's just a matter of taste and opinion.
Yeah.
That's it. You want to say anything?
You might have different tastes and opinions than me.
Yeah, of course.
And as Joseph Bridges would say, you're entitled to be wrong.
Entitled to be loved, Joseph Bridges. All right, that's it. You want to say anything before we're out of here, Eric Holmes?
Mitch, William, we love you guys. We wish you could still be here with us. And all the rest of you, we love you too. Even the Mobile Suit Gundam fans. If you're thinking a certain way and you're deciding to end it, I know me saying this won't change anything, but I wish you would reach out. We don't need anything else like what Mitch Burns did or my brother Steve did. Sometimes it can't be avoided, but if you can take that moment, if you have a moment of clarity where it's like, I need to reach out, please do it. We need you around.
Yeah.
Unless you're a rapist, then
100%. Then we're gonna stick Army Hammer on you. All right, guys, we're done with this episode. And wait,
I'm gonna look up what Army Hammer did.
Please don't look up. Don't look up what Army Hammer did regarding that alleged stuff. That is all. I guess remember we forgot to put allegedly. But
actually, that's important. If Army Hammer if there are things that he
100%.
As we're recording this, I have no idea what it is. It's just some vague thing about cannibalism.
Yes, or alleged. Who knows? Whatever. But here's Bruce Purkey over at the Cinematic.
Welcome to the Cinematic, the attic of cinema. This is going to be a pretty short version of the Cinematic because I saw zero screeners this week. Now, we did have some screeners this week, but I'm still getting over the whole Mitch and William thing, and I had a really hard time getting the energy up or whatever it might be to dive in some of these streamers. In fact, one of the streamers, I'll leave it nameless because I did not finish it, so I don't think it's fair for me to even talk bad about it by name. But there was a screener we had, and I think I gave it about 30 minutes, and I was already suspicious of it because of the movie that by a director we'd seen before, which I had not enjoyed, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to give any movie its own due. Got about 30 minutes into it, and it was so self-consciously artsy and so slow and so meandering and so not getting to the point, which I can go for in a lot of movies, but for whatever reason, this week I was just like, I can't do it. I need something more straightforward. I need some meat and potatoes. I need some popcorn. I need something, even if it's not a happy-go-lucky movie, I need something that's going to give me that easy to ingest film experience on the weeks when I'm still not over the whole Mitch and William thing. I promise next week we'll be back to regular old screeners and everything else. But this week I did a couple of recent digitally available movies. I did one that's right to streaming recently, and that's Lee Cronin's The Mummy. And then I also did They Will Kill You. Actually, I think Lee Cronin's The Mummy is not available streaming yet. It's digitally available. That's right. I got them mixed up. They Will Kill You is now streaming on HBO Max. And then in honor of Mitch, I rewatched the original Alien. I won't go through a long review of that. I might just go into my reaction to seeing it again in general and Mitch and stuff again a little bit. So let's get into it. Lee Cronin's The Mummy from this, and I think he also did a little indie horror movie, I want to say, that was on Shudder called The Hole in the Ground, maybe? I think that might be the name of it. But Evil Dead Rise was his big come out for a lot of people. And Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which I guess he had to rename it because he's not saying, look at me, I am, I am Coppola's Dracula, that kind of thing. I think he's doing it because another version of The Mummy is coming out like soon, possibly with Brendan Fraser again. I don't know. Someone had something to write, so they had to rename it. In the way the bands will break up, and 2 members of the band will be in one version of it, 2 members will be in the other, and one of them will have to call it The Real, whatever the band is. The other one will be like The Band. Anyway, Lee Cronin's The Mummy stars Jack Rayner. You might know Jack Rayner from Midsommar. He ends up in the bear suit. He plays Charlie, the father of a family. Natalie Grace plays Katie, becomes the titular mummy. Billy Roy plays Maud, the youngest daughter of the family. I didn't write down the name of the son. Larissa is the mom. She played by Alea Costa. And then there's Detective Dahlia Zaki, played by May Kamawi. And what can you say about The Mummy? The basic concept is American family. I just mentioned most of them. They are living in Egypt while the father is a reporter there for temporarily. In fact, he just gets a new assignment. He's about to get to go to, I think, New York and get a bigger gig. But he's currently in Egypt, and Katie, their daughter, gets lured away by a stranger out of their yard just randomly one day and disappears. And of course, they're distraught. And this is the prologue to the movie. And she disappears, and they're not able to find her. She's not found. Nefarious activities have occurred. Most likely, she'll never be found, at least alive, again. And then you flash forward. I think they said 8 years, 10 years, 8 years, I think. And you flash forward, and the family's living in New Mexico. That was originally where he used to live, and the idea was he got this new job, and he was going to go to New York. And I think the idea was once they lost Katie, all of these aspirations and the ability to move forward got lost too, and they went back to where they were comfortable. So they're all living in Albuquerque, if I remember correctly. And at the beginning of the movie, the mother was pregnant with a new daughter. The new daughter is now 8 years old, like I said. Maud, played by Billy Roy. And out of the blue, they get a call that Katie has been found alive. And thus begins The Mummy, because if you've seen the poster, or you've seen any of the trailers, anything about this movie, you know that the daughter comes back to them, but is definitely not the daughter they used to know. Now, this is where you have to basically start really suspending your disbelief in this movie. And I think that's the biggest thing I can give to people in this movie. I think going in with a certain expectation is very helpful. Now, if you saw the Evil Dead that he made, Evil Dead Rise, and you liked it over top, super gory, very stylized approach, I think you'll enjoy this movie because I think it's very much more of the same. If you're looking for a modern, current day horror movie that's elevated, quote unquote elevated, that really has a serious and creepy, serious artistic tone, like Bring Her Back, those movies, I think you might be really disappointed. I think a lot of people were really disappointed because in a lot of ways, this is a very cheesy, very over the top, dumb. Like I said, you have to really suspend disbelief a lot. But if you can go in with that attitude of, hey, this is a popcorn horror movie. It's going to gross me out. It's going to be dumb, but I'm going to get my money's worth. I think if you go with that attitude, I think you could really enjoy this movie. Now, what is the big suspension of disbelief you have to make with this movie right out of the gate? Katie comes back home. And of course, the idea is like, boy, no one knows exactly what happened to her, but we found her alive. She's been gone for this length of time. Obviously, if she was kidnapped or abused in some way, she's highly traumatized, basically almost catatonic. She's not speaking. They say her skin has been hurt and damaged, and that's why she looks the way she does, which basically is like a corpse. Now, The Mummy is almost not even really true for this movie. I guess they just picked The Mummy as the basic format, and she is wrapped in stuff at the beginning of when she's found, I guess. But honestly, this movie is much more similar to The Last Evil Dead as a possession movie, much more similar to almost a reboot of The Exorcist, a really good reboot of The Exorcist. If you think of this as a reboot of The Exorcist compared to all the other Exorcist movies that have been made post the first one, this might be one of the best sequels / reboots of The Exorcist. I think that's a good way to look at it because it really hits a lot of those notes. Anyway, the big suspension of disbelief is when they bring her into her house and she looks essentially like a sleeping zombie who will occasionally lash out with violent acts towards one of the family members, one of the first things she does is like headbutts one of the people in the family and screams, and she's just laying there and she just looks armed over zombie. You gotta really, okay, I'm gonna take this and go with it attitude, because otherwise you're like, no family, even if it's their long lost beloved daughter, they're not gonna be able to, first of all, handle this quote unquote child zombie, whatever it is. And they're definitely not going to keep it around their otherwise safe children still in the house, because within the first, I think, 15 minutes of the movie, when the child is back, I think the Katie zombie kid, mummy, whatever, has headbutted somebody, I think, and scrambled into the crawl spaces in the walls and is running around like a creepy monster. And of course, she eventually comes back and is back to her former state of catatonia. Nothing good's going to happen. They're not going to be able to just bring this person out of their shell. This person is very much broken. So anyway, take that. This movie's going to have a million excuses for them to still have this monster in their house living among them. And they do. They continue to do that. And then it becomes this combination of super cheesy, almost old school, like uncovering of the mystery and the curse and what occurred, and discovering like how to beat the monster stuff. Partly when they start contacting the former detective on their child's case in Egypt, who helps them at the other end, who helps them from Egypt discover what happened to their daughter and what the curse or whatever it is that's going on. That aspect of the movie, the mystery, which is, like I said, really cheesy, but I enjoyed it. And then there's the other aspect of the ever escalating craziness coming from the Katie mummy zombie creature living in their house. And the gore in here is great. And if you like gore, especially body horror and very cringe, not cringe and it's bad that it makes you cringe, more like cringe because it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look at that. Even though I know it's a movie, it's giving me the willies of how gross it is. There's a lot of those scenes in here. There's one particularly involving very decrepit, crusty toenails. And you're waiting for the whole time that the mother is trimming these toenails for this big toenail to get torn off, which is cringy enough as it is. Let's just say what occurs is much worse than that and is the beginning of the true gore escalation in this movie. And violence, very much like Evil Dead Rise, violence is directed towards everybody in the family, the other kids, the parents. There's I don't know if she's a housekeeper or a mother-in-law that lives with them. I wasn't quite sure. She gets a lot aimed towards her as well. There's just some gonzo, ridiculous, the capital R scenes involving a funeral that I'm not going to describe who and why it's happening, but that scene was terrible and amazing. I really love this movie despite itself. It was quite a lot of fun, but I know it's not a great movie. There's a ton of holes you can poke in this movie. There's a ton of stuff that is silly, but it's silly in a gleefully gross, over-the-top way that's similar to what you'd get in early Sam Raimi or Peter Jackson or those movies where they just throw it at the wall and they know it's not, doesn't make any sense half the time, but you're just in there for the ride. Like I said, a popcorn, meat and potato sort of a movie. If you're in for this movie, it's going to deliver what you need from it. So what do I rate this movie? I mean, it's not really a 3-star banger, but I had a good time watching it. For me, I guess I'm just going to go 4 stars on it for me. Now, with a huge grain of salt, if you're not into or not looking for the movie I described, you are probably not going to like this. And it got a pretty low rating. I think it's like a below 50% in Rotten Tomatoes. I think the viewers were about the same because a lot of viewers just aren't in for a really gross horror movie, especially one that aims a lot of stuff at kids. And the style would be silly for a lot of people, so they may just really even check out more. So I think a lot of people are not going to enjoy this movie. But for me, it worked for the ridiculousness that it had. And that's Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which I got it as a pretty cheap rental. It wasn't much. I think it was like $4 or something, which to me was worth it. And I bet anything it's going to be streaming very soon. Usually when it's about that price renting, it's going to come out streaming within a month. So I bet you'll be able to find it pretty quick and go check it out, I would say, if that sounded interesting to you. Now, the other one I saw was They Will Kill You, which has a very similar effect. Not quite the same vibe, but it works in similar ways as far as just being over-the-top gore fest, but not as gross. I mean, it doesn't make you go, ooh, ooh. It's more like silly gross. They Will Kill You is directed by Kirill Sokolov. The main people you're going to recognize from this movie are going to be Zazie Beetz and Patricia Arquette and Heather Graham as the three heavy hitters as far as people you would recognize. There's a bunch of other people in here you probably recognize as well. And this has got a lot of similarities to some big action/horror movies of recent years. It's got a little bit of Ready or Not in it and Get Out with this horror-tinged racial class warfare stuff going on. It's got a little bit of The Raid where you have to work your way up a building towards a big boss through a variety of threats along the way. And it's got a whole lot of Evil Dead in the over-the-top gonzo gore and violence that's quite cartoonish, but never like the Mummy I just described. It's never like that just cringe and make you want to shut your eyes gore. It's more like Evil Dead 2. So crazy gonzo gore that you enjoy for just being inventive and goofy. And if a little bit of Tarantino too, where, a little bit of Kill Bill, where if you cut off a limb, blood just fountains out of the stump, or eyeballs might be flying around the place. Just weirdo, crazy stuff. Now, of course, that immediately will tell you some people are not going to be into that at all. But if you are bothered by gore only a little bit, this movie might be okay for you because it's staged in such a silly action way that it's not the kind that's make your stomach churn. At least not mine. I don't know. A weird scale to rate that on. But They Will Kill You, the basic concept is the Zazie Beetz character at the beginning of the movie. I won't even really tell you why, but she gets separated from her little sister and ends up in prison. And years later, Zazie Beetz gets out of prison. I'm just going to use the actor name so you can get over it. Gets out of prison, shows up at the door of this unbelievably evil-looking apartment tower building with giant Gothic doors with demons carved over the doorway and stuff. Goes inside, is met by an incredibly creepy group of residents and the people who run the place, which the main, I don't know, headmistress or whatever you want to call her, is played by Patricia Arquette. And she's met there immediately. They close the door behind her and it's bolted shut with giant, like, safe vault style metal bars built into the door, which doesn't look suspicious at all, does it? And Get Out, like, every servant is a person of color and seems to be silent and mysterious. And she's immediately told she's there for a job, but she's really there to find her little sister. She's heard her little sister is there, and she's pretending to get this job at this place in order to find her sister. That's the basic, I guess, concept of why she's there. And I'm not going to give you all the secrets away. I'm guessing, I didn't watch the trailer, I'm guessing the trailer gives away too much. Not that these secrets or the twists are a giant thing in order to enjoy the movie, but they're fun to discover what the motivations and what's actually going on in this place, what those things are. And you do find them out pretty quickly. Once again, I'm not going to go into what they are, but in probably about the first 20 minutes, you'll discover, what's the deal? Who are these weird and creepy people that are running this place, and why are they doing it, and what's happening here, and where is Zazie Beetz' sister at? And from the time you find that out, which like I said is about the first 20 minutes of this movie, once you find that out, it's off to the races, and it's just Zazie battling ever-increasing threats to try to get to her sister and save her sister and thwart the evil minions of this building. Is it a lot of fun? For me, it's a lot of fun. I think for a lot of people, it was way too goofy and tonally way too silly and on the nose in some aspects of the class warfare stuff for a lot of people. I don't know if they go in looking for it to be maybe a different movie. Maybe they want it to be taken much more seriously, like more a la Get Out or something, which I think Get Out has a lot of comedy too, honestly. Maybe they want it to be more that. Like I said, I think it's more tonally close to Kill Bill meets Ready or Not in style. Even Ready or Not, I think, is a little more serious to some degree, a little less cartoonish. And I think Ready or Not is probably arguably a better movie. But honestly, I think I might have had more fun with this movie. And I think that's probably a really hot take for most people. I think a lot of people really love Ready or Not. And for me, Ready or Not went in one eyeball and out the other. And this does to some degree too. But I just feel like overall, this was more my vibe. It scratched an itch, like I said, for those like Evil Dead 2, Dead Alive, those movies that you just don't get much of anymore. Squishy gore, really crazy, very high energy action stuff. And I really love Zazie Beetz in general. And here she's really, I think, perfectly cast as a action star almost character here. I wouldn't even say almost as an action star character. She's an action star here because she has those aspects of an action star where they're getting hurt throughout, but you don't ever believe they're really going to get hurt. Whereas they can just cause massive damage on pretty much everyone they encounter. So it's very overpowered character as far as that goes. And Patricia Arquette was really great as the evil mistress of this evil apartment building or whatever you want to call it. Once again, easy watch. You can just sit down and just take it in. You don't have to think too hard. It just gives you the silliness that you might want at that moment, which I did. So I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm going to go the same as I did for Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I'm going to go 4 stars. Once again, I think a lot of people rate this lower. These movies are my action movies. The same way that people love an action movie and it's what they need in that moment and it just fills a spot, even though most people might think it's dumb. These movies do that for me. So sorry if you don't like them and they're not for you, but I enjoyed them quite a bit. And I can imagine, I don't think William would like these as much because William is definitely more on my art house cinema side of love, which I love those movies as well. But Mitch, I could see really enjoying, and I don't know if he watched these movies. I should go back and look at his Letterboxd. I'm guessing he probably liked They Will Kill You. Maybe not Lee Cronin's The Mummy so much, but I bet you he liked They Will Kill You quite a bit. It just seems like he'd enjoy it. But I could be wrong. You never know. I could be wrong. All right. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you really briefly about the original Alien by Ridley Scott. I don't even have to probably tell everybody how big and iconic of a movie this is. I mean, I think almost everybody's seen it. It's like mentioning Jaws or The Godfather. There's certain movies that you mention it, and the vast majority of people, even non-movie people, have seen it or at least know almost everything about it because it's so ubiquitous. And Alien, the original Alien, is one of those movies, and Aliens, to a lot of degree, is too. In fact, I think a lot of people have seen Aliens more than Alien. But for me, Alien is still my favorite because it's one of the first movies I ever got fully obsessed with. Early in my life, I was really obsessed with Jason and the Argonauts. Of course, Star Wars and Jaws were big ones for me. But when Alien came out, Alien was one of the first movies where I was really starting to become a movie fan and reading magazines and finding every bit of information I could about a movie before it actually came out in the theater. And in fact, I was pretty young when it came out. I think it came out in 1979. So my parents weren't really taking us to R-rated movies at that point. I think the first R-rated movie I saw was around that time. I think it was Amityville Horror. But for whatever reason, we didn't see Alien in the theater right when it came out. So I think it was the first movie I checked out when we got a VCR, which was like a year or two later, maybe 81, something 82. It was the first movie I think I got when I got a DVD player. It was always, I'm going to see this movie in the best format I can every time that new format comes out because Alien just matters to me that much. And before I got to see the original movie, I had a full photo book of Alien. When I say photo book, I'm talking thick, 2.5-inch thick book that was almost a still from every moment of the film. I knew the movie in and out before I even saw it. Every shot, every sequence. And then I also had an illustrated version of it, which was like a comic book version of the entire story of Alien. And which is really cool. If you've never seen it, you can look it up. It's probably not really valuable or anything, but it was really neat. And I always knew that when we talked to Mitch online, various things, that Alien was one of his very favorite movies. And I agree with him. I think it's obviously a 5-star classic for me. It's just iconic. And I don't know, one of the times it came up recently in the last couple of years, I forget we were talking about, or he was talking about Alien, or something came up and he was mentioning how much he loved it. And I remember digging up that old book that I was talking about, the movie book with all the stills and the comic illustrated version of it. And I remember taking some photos and sharing with him, and he really thought that was cool, and he was wishing he had it. I also used to have, and I wish I still had it, my little brother broke it, but I would still have it if he hadn't broken it. But there's the big, 20-inch action figure of the alien monster from the original Alien that came out at the time, and had a little switch you'd push on the back of its long head, and the little jaws would come out. It was so cool. In fact, I still have it right in front of me. You can't see it with the camera. Let's see if I can turn this camera around just for a second. Even if anyone is watching this, which is probably not many people, I'm going to turn my camera around. It's a Fargo poster right there. You see that? That is the insert that came with the alien figure from whenever that was, 1980, 1979. I still have the insert that came in it, which showed how the action figure worked for you. If you couldn't figure it out, which there's not much to figure out, it's just an action figure with arms and legs that move and a little head thing that squeezes out the double set of jaws. But really cool. What can you say about Alien? I rewatched it this week because it's in honor of Mitch. And I don't know how many times I've seen this movie, 20 times in my life, probably more. Parts of it for sure more. But I've probably seen it full on through at least 10 or 15 times, if not more. And it's a movie that really holds up. And I don't know if you've seen it lately, but it's just amazing how certain movies from that time period, sure, they look dated and aged somewhat, but not compared to other things. Look at other movies from 1980. They seem extremely dated in fashion, in filming style, in plot, in music, in all kinds of stuff. And everything here holds up really well. Part of it is because you're in space, so it doesn't necessarily have a timestamp to it in that way. I guess the closest thing in this movie to something that's aged and looks dated is the fashion of the people on the ship. They have the trucker hats and the patches, but even those seem believable for a time and place that we don't know. It could be the case that you'd still have it in that way, in that time. The only other thing that might be dated is the computer systems, of course. They're very like old DOS style stuff where it's all just words printed on a screen in that fluorescent greenish blue sort of a tint. But it's also still believable that you'd have this sort of, it's not analog obviously, but this very rudimentary form of information being presented to them on the ship, because it's just this work mining ship. It's not anything that's supposed to be dazzling and fancy. All the computer stuff is just supposed to do its job. So that, even though it's dated in the way it's presented to us, I think it still just works. For your brain, it feels right. And everything's broken down and grungy. All the people that work there are tired and fatigued. They're work weary, even though they just woke up from their hypersleep. They're work weary in a way that just seems like real life. And I think that's another thing that keeps this movie very grounded and timeless, is that the people just seem like regular everyday people you meet in the world everywhere, all the time. They're just working a grunt job, trying to make their money and get over their mission. I guess people talk about it a lot. It's like a mining ship, which it is. But in a lot of ways, it feels like an Alaska fishing boat, where people go out there for months at an end, work really hard, try to survive, and then get a big payout when they finally get home. It feels like people doing that on this movie. And they get stopped in the middle and have to go investigate the beacon that leads to the alien. That's the script. Everyone knows the alien gets on board for various reasons, and danger and intensity ensues. And it really, in a lot of ways, just becomes a haunted house movie where the monster's on the ship and they have to figure out where it is and try to kill it so it doesn't kill them first. And the production design is amazing, beautiful. The cinematography and the filming style that Ridley Scott gives here is awesome. His early level way of filming, which goes with the Duelists, it goes very much with Blade Runner. You can see the DNA of Blade Runner and this movie are very strong with each other. And both of them have these big, empty, giant spaces that seem decrepit and strange, but just work within the world. There's a lot, of course, famous iconic sequences in this movie. The one that always strikes me and one that isn't talked about as much, it's the death of, oh my gosh, I didn't write down his name, Hurt. The character played by Hurt Obviously, Paris, Texas, probably his best role, but he's really good here as one of the world-weary workers. Him and Yaphet Kotto are just the mechanics. They always get sent down to the grunt work, like try to keep the ship running. And they're out looking for the stupid cat. He's looking for the stupid cat because he let it go because the cat's setting off the motion sensors, which leads to one of the best jump scares in movie history, of course. Classic. If you want to talk about, show people, what is a jump scare? A lot of times they pick the Jonesy jump scare from Alien because it's so iconic. But the scene where Hurt's character has to go and find Jonesy so they can stop it from set off the sensors. He wanders through these, I don't know if they're loading bays or loading docks for a buggy that could go out into the surface of a planet or something. It's like an area of the ship that's not being used right then because I think it's part of the mining operations when they're actually on a mining planet or a planet or an asteroid they're mining. Since it's not being used, it's just abandoned during the main part of the ship's transport. And he's walking through it and there's chains hanging down and there's rain or condensation that's just raining down upon him. And just this long sequence that I could see in many modern movies. And even then, probably, I could see notes being given to the scene. Like, can we cut this scene down? We just want to get to the moment where he gets killed by the alien. Why do we have to have him wandering through this isolated, desolate area of the ship? But I love it. I love it so much. You just see the care and the production design and just these massive rooms that have no use in the rest of the movie. They're just there. It's just to give you a feeling of the realness of this massive ship and just how many, I think if nothing else, it just shows you like, oh my gosh, this alien could be hiding anywhere on this ship and you're not going to find it because this place is huge and weird and just full of dark corners and massive vaulted ceilings everywhere you look. There's just no way out. You're toast. Just a wonderful movie. I guess I can totally see, and I can see why it sparked so many people's imaginations, this series, and just great escapist sci-fi in general, which we don't get near enough of these days. It's rare to get, really rare, honestly, if you think about it, to get a true adventure, like epic sci-fi at all these days. You have a whole bunch of Star Wars type of movies, you got a whole bunch of superhero type of movies, but they're not like sci-fi. This was. And even though this is in essence a monster movie, you just don't get movies where you just create a whole world that you've never seen before, not based on any other property, not a sequel. It's just a whole world. We're going to give it to you. Here's characters you've never met before. Here's a place you've never been before. And I miss that discovery and wonder that you get in a movie like that. It's the thing you feel in Alien. It's the thing you feel in movies like Lord of the Rings. Any of these epic worlds where the discovery of the world itself is half of the movie, and then the plot and the adventure is the other half of the movie and the characters. But half the time, it has the same feel that you get in a great video game, where, for me at least, where I play a game like Skyrim or a game like, I don't know, Witcher 3, or these games that I really like. Part of it is you just want to explore and experience this weird world you're in and what is in that cave and what is around that next corner. And when you go over that ridge, what are you going to see next? And you get that same adventure and wonder in these original sci-fi movies like Alien. Like half the time I'm just looking at the hallways and the weird rooms and the gadgets on the wall. And what is that weird little, what is the device that, what's the name of, I forgot his name, the name that the doctor / cyborg in this one. I should know it, of course, but whatever, it's out of my head. What's that little object, that device he's using to probe and cut into the corpse of the face hugger? And how do they make that face hugger when it looks like actual organs? They took like organs from a pig or something and put it into a rubber model of this face hugger. And how did they? And that thing all the way along. It's just always a sense of wonder. So thanks for Mitch to give me a reason to watch it again. And if you haven't, it's a great one. And if you look at the top 4 that Mitch has, this one, and he has, what does he have? Lord of the Rings, I think, Farewell to the King, which has very similar effects. He has, I don't think it's on his top 4 on his Letterboxd, but I know Jurassic Park is another big one for him. Once again, has a similar effect. He has Children of Men. Doesn't quite work the same, but it does to some degree. Children of Men, a lot of what works about that is that it's a fully realized world that is at one point familiar to you, but at the other point, strange and always just packed to the edges with interesting details that tell you about a world that isn't quite yours, but you understand just because of you're given all the details. So even there, I can see elements of what we're talking about here. So like I said, 5-star classic, Alien. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. If you haven't seen it for 10 or 15 or 20 years, go watch it again. I think you'll be maybe like myself, always finding new things that are awesome. Like the plot isn't going to surprise you, of course, anymore, which allows you to just explore the entire world they're living in. All right, that's all I have for this week. I know it's not a lot, but it gives you 3 movies that I think are all a lot of fun. All to some degree great escape type of movies, all easy to ingest, but have a lot of great details around the edges to keep you interested. And next week we'll be back to who knows what. I don't even know what movies we have coming up for us. Oh, and also don't forget, I'm guessing they already talked about it earlier in this episode, but if they didn't, we are going to have our 1951 Patreon year episode for this month. So any movies from 1951 that you think we should watch, or you've always been interested in watching yourself and you want us to check out too, throw those suggestions out there to us so we can bring that to you for a Patreon episode. Once again, the new range of years we're going to be doing randomly for the next several months is going to be from 1950 to 1970. I think he said 75. I could be wrong. At least 70. All right, everybody. That's all I've got to say. And I've been saying F-Ice, which I still believe in at the end of every episode. I still want to say F-Ice, but I think in light of Mitch and William leaving us, I might have to come up with something else to say at the end, like, we miss you, William and Mitch. Something like that might be good. Because I would rather, I guess, remember somebody who had a great influence on us and had such a positive impact over this world than maybe the negativity of something we want to go away. I still want them to go away, but I think I'm just going to be saying maybe if I can remember to do it. Thank you, William and Mitch. And we miss you. And one last thing, because I like to ramble. And I think we're going to have this experience a lot out there. We're going to start seeing movies that we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have discussed that with Mitch or William, or I know William would have loved this movie, or I know Mitch would have loved this movie. And I haven't had that experience yet because nothing has hit me quite in the last couple of weeks that has done that to me. Weirdly, a music thing has done that to me. And this is very off topic, but I'm going to throw it in there really quick at the end. And that is one thing I could always talk about with Mitch and William was music. And especially, I knew that all three of us had an enjoyment of great pop divas of the current age, which is different than a lot of the other music I like. And it's not the indie punk metal stuff that is at my core. But another part of my core has always been these pop diva type artists, your Lady Gaga, Madonna, whatever it is. I just love that stuff, especially if it's great writing. And this week we had the newest drop from Olivia Rodrigo. You seem pretty sad for a girl so in love, if I got that title right, which is getting tons of praise from people and arguably her best work and arguably probably one of the top, if not the top pop album for this year. Really solid. But the album that would just get ignored by a lot of too cool for school indie music people, which I love indie music. But one thing I know is I would have had a good discussion. Even if they didn't love it, I know that Mitch and myself and William would have probably all been discussing this album this last week. And it really hit me this week that neither of them ever discussed it. And I was like, dang, neither of them got to hear this full album. And I know that at least one of them, if not both of them, would have loved it. And that makes me sad that we're going to lose those moments. I have a feeling over the next years, movies are going to come out and things are going to come out for that one or the other I know would have just been really excited to experience and to discuss, and they're not going to be there to do it. Once again, that will lead me to say, we miss you guys. Wherever you guys are out there, miss you, William, miss you, Mitch.